the Cinema Bees podcast. This is our first episode, so thank you so much for coming. Just give a quick intro. My name is Monica.
My name is Tyler.
We are siblings, and we love movies, grew up watching movies, just love everything about them, and we want to talk about them and make you listen to them. So we are forcing our opinions upon everyone else.
You have to listen. This is a contract.
Just to give information on Cinema Bees, where that comes from. It's kind of a family inside thing. Our grandma, our maternal grandma, our mom's mom, her thing is like bees. I don't know.
She always oh wait, no, I'm thinking of Ma Doodles.
Yeah, that's kind of where it came from. Basically, she used to do these little doodles, and she always put a little bumblebee on them. And she's super crafty, so now all of the crafts she makes us have bumblebees on them, and we're all kind of like little bumblebees in her hive. It's a whole thing. Our family's really close, but anyway,
like our house just like ends up being like, we go through seasons of like we replace stuff around our house to decorate for different holidays, whatever. It usually ends up defaulting to bees.
Bumblebees, pretty much, yeah.
That's just how it is around here.
That's where it comes from. So we're little cinema bees just buzzing around, and we are...
We're here to give you the scoop on what's the buzz in the cinema world.
Is it buzzworthy?
Yeah, that's the age-old question. Is it buzzworthy?
So that's our goal here. So today's inaugural movie, drumroll please, is Halloween Kills.
Woo! Starting off with the nice Halloween episode.
Spoopy. No, but so I love the Halloween films. I'm kind of new to them, probably like last 5 years, I would say. I watched the 78 one, and then I personally love the 2018 one. I think Tyler's in the same boat.
I didn't start watching Halloween films until last year, around Halloween time. Mm-hmm. I just never got into them. As it's weird because I'm a huge horror buff, especially more than Monica. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of odd that I didn't get into them, but I watched the original on Halloween night, and then we watched the reboot on Halloween night.
Yeah,
as well.
We watched them both. Yeah,
we watched them both, and I was in love with both of them. They were so good, and so I got excited for this to actually go see it in theaters, which we did see it in theaters. Mm-hmm. That's an important clarification nowadays.
Yeah.
So we saw it in theaters, and we're literally coming back we saw it 3 hours ago. It started 3 hours ago.
It is after 10 p.m., so we're ready.
It's just what happens. Mm-hmm. So the way that this podcast is going to be structured is every single time we see a movie, we are going to talk about the trailers that came first, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to start with that. We're each going to highlight a trailer that we thought really, really stuck out to us. And even if it, maybe it didn't get shown in theaters and there's a new trailer that we really wanted to talk about, we can talk about it, especially if we didn't see it in theaters when there's no trailers.
Yeah.
We'll find something to talk about. And then we will get into a general discussion about the movie without any spoilers. We will try to avoid almost all plot, besides plot that was seen in the first trailer. Because personally for us, when we're really excited for a movie, we watch the first trailer and nothing else because we know we're going to see the movie. So we don't need to be spoiled for other stuff. So then after that, we'll get into spoilers, and we will give our buzzworthy rating before that to give you the idea of, should I go see this movie? And then you can come back and hear what we have to say about the plot, and we can go way more in depth, which I'm sure we will.
Exactly.
So starting off tonight's round of trailers, let's start with Monica's movie.
All right, so the trailer that I was most excited about, and this trailer has actually been out for a hot minute, the initial trailer for it, which is Last Night in Soho. I've seen that initial trailer a bunch, and it was kind of super vague, and it was just some really cool shots, and I was like, what's this movie about? But this trailer that was shown tonight kind of got it more into what the plot was, and I just think it looks so good. Both of the actresses in it, I think, are really good, especially, oh my gosh, do you know that girl's name that's in Queen's Gambit? And she just is in everything. I mean, she stays booked in Hollywood. If you need a girl in her teens or 20s, you better watch out because she's getting the role.
Google is a wonderful thing. Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yes.
She's the girl from Split.
Yes, I know. I completely forgot that. I mean, she's really staying booked. But
oh, yeah,
anyway, it just looks really good. I recommend checking out the trailer. Part of the reason I think it looks good is because of like the 60s aesthetic. He's a huge part of it. Looks really good, but then it kind of gets into like a paranormal murder mystery almost aspect. It just honestly, I think it looks really good, and I personally think it's really cool to see a movie like that with a leading lady, because I think a lot of films like that are male focused, and I think that's gotta be good. That's my opinion.
So I had seen that trailer only a handful of times, and the first I must just not have been paying attention because I did not realize it was like a horror movie or a murder mystery, and so I had no. I guess I just maybe the first trailer didn't show that much plot. That
the first
gave
trailer,
the idea.
do you remember it played the song Downtown in the back? It was Downtown.
Kind of.
Okay, well that's like the whole. It's like a montage of like different scenes to that Downtown song,
right.
and then it like speeds
nothing.
up, and then it like just cuts to the title.
It explained nothing. It was just like shots of I do remember that.
Yeah, this one actually has dialogue and like kind of gets into the plot a little bit. So I don't want to watch any other trailers after this one because I'm afraid, but I think that'll be good. That comes out I think in a couple weeks on the 29th, October 29th.
October 29th? Yeah, that would be a good Halloween movie if you're going out to see any movies during that Halloween weekend. That's a good movie if you have already seen Halloween Kills, because Halloween Kills is the one most people are going to go to. But
what was your movie, Tyler?
Oh, my movie was another horror movie, Scream. The new Scream trailer just came out.
Heck yeah.
And I personally have never seen any of the Screams.
I've never seen any of the Screams either. We didn't really watch a lot of horror movies growing up.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of why, but I'm starting to get more into the classic horror movies. So like Friday the 13th, I just watched that for the first time last year and I loved that. So maybe we should watch Scream together again.
This year.
And then
this year.
We'll watch it this year.
Our Halloween, we usually try to watch a horror movie. We don't know what we're going to watch this year, but
I think it should be Scream.
Have yet to watch Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Oh my gosh.
So who knows if
also,
we're watching
another big fact about us, we're big Disney people. And specifically, I love the Muppets. I think they are peak comedy. I think everything the Muppets does is so clever.
The Muppets reboot is probably the funniest movie I have ever seen. I can quote that movie so much. Like, it's so bad. Like, it's gone to a point where, like, if we ever watch that, we just say the entire movie. Like, you can't get better than the Muppets comedy.
It's amazing. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I've heard such good things about it. It got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes by the critics.
No way! I did not know that. That's so good.
I know.
But, okay, back to Scream. Sorry, the Scream, like, I've never seen it, but I always know that, like, the whole, like, oh, you want to play a game on the phone, like,
I've seen that scene with Drew Barrymore, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, like, from the first trailer, it seems like they're going way more modern day, which is such a clever idea.
Yeah.
It's like, it's obvious that they're bringing back characters from the older movies. But, even though that doesn't stick out to me because I don't know them, it kind of reminds me of how Halloween reboot was. But the fact that they're making him modern day with him, like, unlocking the doors, like him, like, calling on a cell phone instead of being a landline. Or wait, no, the landline was still in the original trailer. But he texts her, acting like the friend. It's a really cool idea. So I'm excited to see if they actually continue making more modern day, like, changes to it.
Yeah.
Or if they're just going to stay with what they have. Which, I mean, it works. Yeah, obviously, everyone loves the Scream movies, but the Scream movies is actually our mother's favorite horror franchise, which I did not know.
I didn't know either. I just learned that tonight, so.
Yeah, so she's excited, and she doesn't like horror movies, so who knows if she'll end up going, because she did not go to Halloween Kills with us.
We even bought her a ticket and everything, and we returned the ticket this morning, because she was like, I'm not going. I'm like, okay, but yeah.
We saw Halloween Kills with our father as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our dad went, and him and Monica had seen the reboot in theaters, where I didn't go.
Yeah.
And then we all three went tonight. So, now do we want to get
further
into
ado,
Halloween Kills? That's
the
title card going right now. So, there's not much we can really discuss.
Yeah, this one, it's definitely hard to go into an in-depth discussion on what there is to like and dislike about this one without going into the plot. So we'll just go into the general discussion. First of all, it was so gory. I was so shocked by the gore, and I will say, sometimes I don't like gory movies. Like, for example, the John Wick movies, I'm kind of like, ooh, oh God, like that's
like
awful.
too much.
So yeah, those are a little too much. But I don't know. I think the gore in this one does it in a way that's almost like playful, but serious.
But it
I don't
also,
know.
it makes sense.
Exactly.
Like, it's Michael's whole thing, especially now, is that he's just brutal. So the gore makes sense, and it's almost like in your head, you're like, oh, I'm justified seeing this, instead of it being just like a director's choice to be like, oh, I want this movie to be very gory, for no reason.
Yeah, I think the reason I don't mind gore in this kind of movies versus like action movies is because in these movies you're like, this guy is bad and he's doing bad things, but in action movies you're like, this guy's a hero but he's also like brutally like murdering people, and I'm like, oh, what? Oh, okay.
Are we sure we're rooting for this guy?
But anyway, it was so gory, and some of almost every kill was like so shocking, but realistic. I think almost all of them were like realistic, like, oh, that would happen,
Yeah.
So that, I don't know. What did you think about the gore?
I mean, as someone who doesn't get affected by gore, like I just don't. I don't know why. It was really, really cool to me because I was, like Monica said, I was getting shocked by each kill. Each kill was a new idea, and it was a new like way or just a surprise that it was happening. And so like it really kept me on the edge of my seat because instead of me being like, oh, it's going to be another gory kill. It's going to be another gory kill. I was just like, oh my God.
What's going to happen? How is he going to do it? Like, how is this going to go? Yeah.
It was done very, very well. And it was almost like, if you remember the one shot from the first reboot from Halloween,
right?
Where he's like walking through the houses and he's killing people, like that was a new inventive idea for the way that they wanted to do that, which I thought was brilliant. I'm a big fan of one shots. I don't know why. I just love classic, like you're following one thing and you're not caring.
No cuts, yeah.
And so that, like, I don't remember I don't think there was one in this film, but each kill established itself like that scene. So it gave me that same idea.
Yeah. I do want to say, just talking about the movie overall, I think that this movie still works. I think that people that like Halloween, like especially like the classic and the 2018, they like Michael Myers. And I do think deep down in the heart of all of it, like this is a Michael Myers movie. And I think basically what I'm trying to say is I think they did a good job of keeping Michael Myers mostly at the heart of it. And I think that's still why when you walk away from it, it was overall a good movie. But I think they did a good job of keeping the classic of Michael Myers, but kind of putting new twists on how he operates. So I think that was really cool.
Yeah, I think they know what they're doing, especially now. Like they're like certain about like what's happening, and what do people or what are they coming for, basically. But I briefly touched on it. The cinematography in the first one, the one shot was great. That's the one that always stands out to me. I don't remember. I haven't watched it recently. This one, nothing stood out.
I think that this happens to a lot of movies. It's almost so plot centered that they didn't really have a lot of time for like cool shots versus for example, when we saw Candyman, that movie was more shot centered or cinematography centered, it felt, than plot centered. So the plot was lacking, but the cinematography in Candyman was so good, you're like, well, it's still like a visually beautiful movie. Yes. But this one, they're like, because it's a trilogy and they're like, we have to explain the plot, we have to get the plot in. It's just like, no time for cool shots and just show the killings. And so
because like some of the stuff like in Candyman, the 2021 version, the kills are very, very cinematic. Like there are multiple times where like the camera is doing something in relation to the killings, whereas this one, it's very much the camera is just showing the killings happening.
I can't really remember any, like, because usually I'll be like, oh, that was a cool shot, or like, oh, that was interesting, but there wasn't really anything that stood out to me.
A lot of stuff didn't stand out to me in this movie.
Yeah, this definitely isn't a movie. I don't know. The first one, I think, just really brought... The 2018 one really brought the heat because it's coming back from so much. It's like, hey, listen, we have 40 years of movies that we made. Forget about them. Only remember the first one. And, like, we're going to come in hot. And they did a really good job. And this one, I think they're like, okay, listen, we have this trilogy. Just hang with us. And we'll get to the third one. But we're going to go through some stuff here. So, anyway, overall, general overall rating, if we're ready to get into that, I personally still really enjoyed it. I felt perplexed at parts at times, and we'll get into that. So as the first Halloween, I honestly think is a 10 movie in my opinion. The 1978 film, I just think that like really is like one of like the best horror movies of all time, and one of like the best movies of all time in my opinion. So
Whoa,
I
that is
probably
a
top
big
25.
Dang.
I would say it's
I did
I
not
really
know
really
that.
really like it. Yeah. So I would give that one a 10. I would give the 2018 one like a 9.5.
Yeah.
I would give this one like a 7.5.
Yeah,
2 points down.
watching
Maybe
it.
even a 7. I don't know.
Yeah, I might give it a 7.
Yeah.
Watching it, I was like, wow, this is cool. But I wasn't like blown away. You know what I mean? I was watching a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
It was what I expected basically, which isn't a bad thing. Like I can go into films expecting the greatest thing and then get the greatest thing. That doesn't make it any less valuable. That doesn't make it any less great. But like for some reason this one just didn't like stand out to me.
Yeah.
So
its rewatchability is lower than the other two.
I'm sorry. I'd rather watch. I mean, maybe it'll change when the third one comes out, but I'd rather watch the 2018 one twice in a row than watch these two. Or I'd rather watch the original and then the reboot and not watch these two, even though they're part of the same trilogy. But I didn't know you regarded the first one that high.
I love the first
reboot,
one.
The reboot, I 100% agree with. The reboot is like legit, like stunning. It's such a good exploration into this world again.
I agree. I guess I think the original is so high because I don't think a lot of horror that we know today would exist without the original. And
that's a good point.
The 2018 one would. The reason it's so good is because it sticks back to what the 78 version established.
I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, overall, I would give this a 7. Same. I think that if you are a fan of the Halloween movies in any capacity, whether you're like a casual fan or you love it, you should go see this movie because you will enjoy it. I think that if you're like, I want to see a movie tonight, which one should I pick? I'm not really a fan of Halloween. Don't. You just see something else because you probably won't like it. You'll leave the theater like, what just happened?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what mood you're in. I mean, this is like one of the only horror movies out right now.
I know. It's so weird.
There's a big horror movie hiatus. I guess maybe because everyone's waiting for Halloween. I've never like analyzed it, so maybe that is a common thing that
I think because I was thinking, oh, Scream should have come out now, but then I thought, well, Scream and Halloween cannot compete.
Yeah.
Like, they're just they wouldn't do that to each other. Like they're selling themselves up for
fans.
I know, I was thinking that. Like, I don't know why I wouldn't. Like,
I wouldn't do it to my pal.
No, but they would just be setting their own movies up to fail or to do less than it could be. So it makes sense. But if you're into wanting to like see like a horror movie, and also if you're wanting to casually watch a horror movie and just sit back and watch some killings, this is a good one to see. So it almost might be better actually for non-Halloween fans because you don't have as much skin in the game. Because for me, I'm just like, bring it back to 78.
That is very true. But also, I would, even though don't get me wrong, the theater experience is 100% better than watching a movie at home. If you haven't seen Halloween 1, I mean, obviously don't see Halloween 2, but even if you have seen Halloween 1, like the reboot, sorry, I would recommend going back home and watching the reboot if you're in a mood for a horror movie. If you're in a mood for a Halloween movie and you don't really care about seeing this movie, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like, as of right now, there's not much to like warrant watching this immediately. Which kind of goes into spoilers.
I kind of disagree. It sounds like you give it less than a 7 in my opinion.
I think I might.
You're like, I give it a 7, but don't watch it. And I'm like, oh, well.
Do not watch this film under any circumstances. I might give it a 6.5.
Okay.
I'm very, very, like, me personally, you will find me ranking many, many movies high. And then
Tyler really
2
gets
weeks
hyped up
later,
on the post-movie thrill, and he'll be like, best movie I've ever seen. It's official.
And then 2 weeks later, I drop it like 2 points. Yeah. So I just need time to like sit it. So I'm going to start, hopefully through this podcast, I can stop that habit. Yeah. And I can accurately rate movies.
I also find that sometimes I read other people's reviews and like their analysis of it makes me be like, true, actually, that is how I felt, but I didn't know how to articulate it until right now. So that's kind of why we're doing the podcast, because I'm sure other people feel the same way, you
Yeah.
know, but also like even in our brief break that we had, I was reading some reviews and I was just like, oh, they're making some points that I agree with. So I don't know. But anyway, let's get into some spoilers. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Wait, you're forgetting the most crucial
Oh my gosh.
part.
Oh my gosh. Wait, guys, wait. We have to let you
Ask
know.
the age-old question. Is it buzzworthy?
I think yes.
Yeah.
I think yes. It is buzzworthy. And we're buzzing about it. The people should be buzzing.
I would, I would, I'm like on the fence, but yes, I would say it's buzzworthy. A mild buzz.
Okay, but now we're going to get into some spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, pause this, go check out the movie, and then come back, listen to our discussion about the spoilers, and get in on the comments. Comment on our Instagram. Go ahead.
I think we will have a TikTok. I'm pretty sure we do have a TikTok.
We do have a TikTok, so we'll post some TikToks, Instagram. We even have a Gmail, so if you want to send us an email with your thoughts, go ahead and do that.
Maybe we'll do some old style Gmail reads.
Oh yeah.
Like see what other people are saying about these movies, because that would be a good follow up afterwards. See what other people, or if people want to send in their initial thoughts to a movie before we see it, we will wait until the episode, and if anyone sends it, we can talk about it. We can talk about what did other people think about this movie.
TBD on that. TBD, but we'll post all of the links and stuff in our description of the podcast, so just take a look there. But anyway, so we are about to move into spoilers and talk about some of the plot related things. So do not listen if you don't want to be spoiled, or if you haven't seen it. If you don't care about being spoiled or you've already seen it, this is a great time to tune in. So we're moving into that now. You have been warned. Okay, so Tyler, the plot, we took some twists and turns and ups and downs, and that's where it gets crazy. First of all, I'm sorry, I keep talking. Initially, right off the bat, so apologizing for talking whilst recording a podcast. These are the things.
How dare you be talking? You should be silent.
But anyway, right off the bat, they get into some flashbacks to 1978, and then they're flashing back to other. It gets kind of crazy. That part was kind of confusing for me at first, and I do think the actor that was playing Hawkins in the 1978 flashback was so bad that it immediately took me out of the movie.
It kind of like, you remember that the redheaded dude from Austin and Ally?
Oh no!
You know what I mean? He reminded me of him because he was like awkward and everything.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? But that's just a side note. But anyway, I think the main plot issue here that I had is the mob that forms in the hospital, and they just spend a lot of time on that. So Tyler, what are your thoughts on that? So I know you might have felt a little bit differently than I did.
Yeah, originally when I had seen it, so there's that scene in the middle where the hospital is going crazy because they think they see Michael Myers. It just ends up being some other mental institute person. And the mob starts roaming the halls trying to hunt this dude down because they think it's Michael and they want to kill him. And at first I was like, this is a really, really interesting idea. And that's literally the thought that went through my head. I was like, this is a cool concept. But
not in this movie.
Yeah.
This is the time.
Never once in my mind was like, oh, this is what this movie needed.
Yeah.
And we had talked about it, me, Monica, and our dad had discussed it afterwards, and he brought some good points that it's just like, you're going to see Halloween because you're going to see Michael Myers. I don't need a social commentary on what happens when mob mentality starts.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool because that's a cool concept to explore.
It definitely is. I just think it took me out of the movie a little bit. I just read a review. I wish I could quote the author over the site, but I lost it. I don't have it. But basically, the review said that this movie wants you to feel excited about some killings and then make you feel guilty about others.
That is such a good point.
That is a good point. That is true, but we're watching a slasher film, so I don't want to be like reminded of like the horrors of mob mentality and suicide like in the midst of it. You know, it's
That's
just
true.
I don't know. I mean,
didn't
I
think
guess
about
if the
that.
director wants to make that choice, obviously they can, and if that's what the commentary they feel they need to make, they can. But I'm just not sure if Halloween is the time or place for that, because I just want to sit back and watch Michael Myers like kill some people and like have a good time.
If you have seen Rogue One, you know that ending scene is probably the best scene out of that movie. And that's basically the entire gist that I got from the first half of, or even third of this movie,
Yeah.
was Michael Myers was going and wrecking everyone's faces, and it was so enjoyable. It was so much fun, and that's what I expected from this movie.
It was so fun. Like you're laughing, like you're cheering, you're like gasping, and it's so fun. And then all of a sudden there's just like this 20-minute sequence in the middle where they're like hunting down this guy because they think it's Michael and it's the wrong guy and everyone's all upset, and that totally would happen in real life. But then like you watch this like man with like clear mental health problems like just deteriorate in front of your eyes and just ultimately be led to commit suicide. And I personally kind of found that triggering a little bit. I know that's so annoying to hear, guys. I get it, triggering is such an annoying concept, but I it took me like out of the movie very quickly, and I like had tears in my eyes. I was just like, oh my gosh,
I felt awful.
I was just like, I want to throw up, this is horrible. And then they're like, back to you, Michael. And then he's just like stabbing people again, and you're like, okay.
You're so right, because like during that moment I was like, wow, this is freaking awful.
Yeah, it's like when you're watching The Joker. It's felt the same way.
Yes.
Yeah,
and they set it up so like you were supposed to believe that like the daughter is the hero because she saved him, and then like for a moment you're like, oh my god, it's gonna work, and then they start bashing in the windows, and you're like, oh, it's not working, and then you're at that point, you're like, oh, and then he starts bashing the window to go outside, and I was like, you know where it's going, and you're like, this is awful to watch, and if that's what they wanted to do, that's great, but going from that to seeing people be brutally murdered, but not in a way that you feel guilty about it, is a hard thing to juxtapose.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's the director's or writer's intention, is to like make you kind of, I don't know, like make you hate yourself a little bit, but it's like, is this the time?
But it's also like in the in both the original and the reboot, you never felt bad. You never felt like, oh, what you were doing is causing this, or what you're doing, or what humanity is doing is the problem. It's always Michael Myers. And I don't see how in the third one they can relate it back again to mob mentality.
And they can't, because even in the movie, that whole concept gets dropped very quickly, and you pretty much like forget that hospital part ever happened. And then the part that I had an issue with was like, the movie's very gory and intentionally, and then they show this guy, you feel so bad, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy killed himself, and then they show a very graphic image of him like post like with his body splattered all over the ground, and you're like, oh, like that guy's like, I don't know how to explain it.
The when Monica talked to me about this after the movie, it really like made a light bulb go off in my head, because the reason the kills are so good in the Halloween movies is because Michael is brutal. The world isn't brutal. Everyone's not more fragile or like more prone to being like splattered. Michael is sadistic. There's one moment in this movie where he's like just stabbing all the knives in a kitchen in one guy's body, and it's out of focus, which is really cool idea because you're focusing.
That was a cool shot. Yeah,
that actually was a cool shot. I forgot about that. We couldn't have talked about that in that spot.
Yeah,
spoilers
that's true.
Anyway, because it's like you're focused on this lady who's watching it, and you're with the lady watching it, but you can't focus on it because it's out of focus. Like how she's dying and can't focus on it because she's dying. It's a cool parallel.
It is cool. Basically, I mean, I don't want to focus on the mob scene and like the suicide too much, but
it just made the world seem brutal instead of Michael.
Yeah, and what's scary about Halloween is like, and it's what's scary, I think that's why Halloween is so good, because it relates back to real horrors in life, which is like, oh my gosh, it's so scary how like you could be living your life and just like one evil person can change the trajectory of your entire life. But now it's like, are you the problem? And it's like, I don't know. Like I said, that's fine to make that statement, but I think you just have to know your audience, and I think that this isn't the audience that's going to respond well to that or wants to, I don't know,
to see that. You're
make
going
another
to Halloween.
movie. I don't know, make another movie about that. Like, that's definitely a good point to make.
Like,
it's accurate, but
like, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're doing with the Scream movie, but I hope to God they don't make it a thing where like people are ganging up, but they get the wrong person. Like, that doesn't make sense in that story.
And then they just spent so much time, like 10 minutes worth of time of someone being like, you've got the wrong guy. It's not Michael. I was like, oh my God, we get it. It's not Michael. Just can we move on? It was, I think they just need a time filler.
And that's probably my main problem with this movie is that most trilogies, they are either 2 good films and 1 bad third film because they ran out of stuff to do. Star Wars. Yeah. Or they are a good first movie, a good endpoint, and something to fill the time in the middle. Mm-hmm. And I truly think that's what this was, is they needed something to fill the time before they got to the final Michael fight. Because, shocker, this was a huge shock to me. Jamie Lee Curtis is not in this movie. She's just not. Like, she's not a part.
She's in the movie, but, like, she probably has, like, 15 minutes of screen time at the most.
And I think that's because they were saving her for the third one.
That's exactly what's happening.
And it's also weird because this is the spoiler for literally the ending. So if you really don't want to, if you haven't stopped now.
This is the ending of the movie, kind of a shocker. So
the daughter,
Karen, I think is her name.
Yes, Karen.
The fact that her name is Karen is so funny because she was acting like a Karen for half the movie in the hospital. That's hilarious. Anyway.
She gets killed by Michael out of nowhere. It's literally the final thing in the movie, and you have no idea it's coming because it's the end of the movie. You're like, oh, they're going to save it for the next film. No, she dies in the end of the movie, and it's like, whoa, that is a shock. But to me, thinking about it now, it's almost like they needed something to make this movie worthwhile, so people had to watch it again. Or people had to watch it, because if they go into the next movie, nothing's changed. But she's dead.
Oh, that's such a good point. I never thought about that.
There's nothing else that adds to this movie that makes the next movie really, besides like the cop dying, maybe. But like he wasn't in the first one.
He wasn't even in the first. He was in 2018. Oh my gosh, that's actually such a good point that you just made. I did want to make a quick side note. I keep comparing these movies to Star Wars, and I'm not sure why, but it's really reminiscent of. It really is reminiscent of the new trilogy. Like truly, it is. But not everyone has to be related. They're like, well, my grandma was killed by Michael. Well, this is my son, my daughter. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So everyone in the town, but now they're all dead. Like, who's left in the town to kill at this point? It's like, everyone is dead. So
maybe that's what Michael wants.
Yeah.
And the cool thing that I do think was a cool idea is they explored what makes Michael Michael. And the cool way that they framed it was, what is he looking at that window for? And that is such a cool idea.
And it makes me want to come back.
It's a simple idea because you don't want to just brute force tell the audience that we're thinking, who is Michael and why is he crazy? So they frame it in, what is he doing at that window? Is he looking out? Is he looking in at himself? Is he looking at the reflection? And that is a very, very cool framing device. So hopefully in the third one, we see more exploration of Michael as a character.
You know, we could go on for the plot, about the plot a lot more. Perhaps we can explore more, like on TikTok or something, posting more in-depth videos. But speaking of the future and like what Michael's about, let's talk about what our theories are for the third chapter, Halloween Ends. Hopefully that comes out October 2022. I would hope, but I don't know.
It's October release.
I don't think people are going to keep their interest for longer. Like this was supposed to be ready last year, but they delayed it because of COVID.
That's
I think.
Very true.
So anyway, I keep joking again. Back to Star Wars. I keep joking that I think that it's going to end with Laurie and Michael dying in each other's arms and kissing.
And then it's going to be revealed
and then
it's going to be revealed that it's a brother sister. Like it just never.
Or for a second I thought like Laurie's going to become Michael.
That would have been a really, really cool idea. I hope one of them goes insane and then just starts killing people.
I think either her or the cop. I think something's going to happen with her or the Frank Hawkins, I think is his name. I think either Laurie or Frank Hawkins is going to something's going to happen. So
because they're setting them up to be a very, very strong relationship in the next movie. And if something happens to one of them, that is crucial. That is a brutal reality.
Yeah, I think that if anything, this movie did make me excited for Halloween 3 or for Halloween Ends. It did make me excited for it.
But I have to counteract that point by saying, if this movie never happened, you would still be excited for Halloween 3 if it was 2.
I agree. I was actually just reading a review, and I need to I'm gonna look into the details of this. The review said that these movies were actually only meant to be Halloween. There's only meant to be 2 of the new ones.
I thought of
and
that.
then they added the third one. So I genuinely think that's what happened. Is they were like, we have this idea for 2 movies. Crap, we can make it 3 movies and make more money. But how can we fill the middle? And it's really clear that that's what happened.
Because you're thinking about it, we're discussing this as a trilogy. Does the first one not count as part of the trilogy?
Yeah.
Because the first one is crucial. So it'd make more sense as a trilogy
Like
if
78,
the first
2018, then
Yes.
this one should be Halloween Ends.
Exactly. And that's kind of why this movie fell a little flat to me, is because they were trying to do stuff that, like, I think they also, because they were filling in time, they didn't know how to make Michael kill people as much, because if he kills too many people, there's no one left for the next movie. Mm-hmm. So then they were like, oh, what if we make it a thing in the hospital where it's mob mentality that we focus on? That way we don't have to address it in the third one. And then the third one is just Michael and Laurie go ham. Like, it's just them. So I'm excited for the third one. I'm excited, especially if they delve more into Michael as a character, because I felt like he was more sadistic in this one.
I agree. He was more sadistic. Okay, 2 more points, and we'll wrap it up. They keep talking about how Michael's like, or at the end, Laurie's talking about Michael's like transcending, and I'm like, is he gonna become like a supernatural thing? That could get sketchy. So I'm not sure where they're gonna go from there. And I also can't help but notice the only child that Michael has killed in all of these movies was the kid at the beginning of 2018, and he was more like 12 or 13.
That is.
Oh, he kills the kid that was trick or treating,
with the skeleton mask.
But those kids are older.
And that's true.
I don't know.
I wondered that. I thought of that. I was like, why doesn't he kill kids unless they just don't want to show kids?
He let that Lonnie kid go at the member from 78.
You're right.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't know. There's a lot to wonder about. I do think that this movie wasn't necessary, but I'm sure they're making a crap ton of money on it. So
it doesn't.
I guess that's why they're doing it.
Like, they're making money, and hopefully that money goes towards Halloween 3, which is a banger.
Yeah.
I'm expecting it to be a banger. I don't think they can ruin it.
I don't think they can mess it up more than this one. And like I said, I still like this one just because I do think Michael Myers is at the bottom of, like, the root of all of it.
Yes.
And I think that's what's good about it. But I think that they're going to learn from their mistakes.
I would definitely watch the first third of this movie. If I wanted to, like, experience, like, Michael, I would watch the first third of this movie.
It's really good.
Maybe the last act, or like maybe the last scene, but like after that, it's like there's not much Michael that I wanted. But really, really fun. I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah, me too.
So it's still buzzworthy.
It is still buzzworthy. I definitely give it I'd love to hear your thoughts on it though, because I think it's definitely a movie that a lot of different people will have different thoughts on. I think there's a lot of perspectives that come from it. Yeah.
100%. I think if if viewers chime in, I think we would get a very, very drastic opinions of it, and that we can relate to, because I want to hear other people's thoughts. So,
all right. Well, thanks guys for tuning into our first ever episode. We're super excited to keep this going. I will just say that this is a busy time of year I'm wrapping up my busy time of year, and Tyler's wrapping up his busy time of year. So winter, I definitely expect more timely content. Just been kind of crazy.
Should get weekly.
Yes.
I think because usually we see movies on Sunday or Saturday. We usually are able to see movies weekly, especially if new movies are coming out. But like this past few months, we've wanted to see so many movies, and we haven't seen them because our schedules just don't align. So expect more from us.
Hopefully if we blow up, then this will become our full-time job, so you guys make that happen.
Yeah, if you make it happen, then you get episodes all the time.
Major props.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Bye.